Hi, Jacob.
And that was Jacob's face. So, hey, welcome to the PHNX Sun Devils live show. I am Brittany Boyer, your host. Joined with me is Shane Diefenbach, my co-host, and Marcus Williams. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Shane, how are you doing?
It's good. It's as we were talking about before the show, the weather doesn't really know what it's doing yet. I will always complain when I'm in the studio. It is so cold, and I keep wearing shorts because I want to beat the damn air conditioning, but it always beats me. I'm freezing right now.
That's why he's always bundled up in his stuff.
So don't make fun of me if I'm wearing my
sweats
hoodies
all the time.
But yeah, other than that, it's been good. Good weekend. Ready to attack homecoming week in full force. It's gonna be fun.
Well, this is the first episode of our homecoming spooktacular week of sorts because it's a week long of live shows. It's the perfect time to get back in touch with a number of Sun Devils, which is why we started with Marcus. He played for the 96 team that went to the Rose Bowl, still very much in touch with ASU Athletics, being that you just got a job there. So we're so happy to have you on. You want to go ahead and talk a little bit about your time, when you played for Arizona State? I know you were a punter. You earned a Pac-10 first team honors when you were there. You were a local kid, graduated from McClintock. So, tell us a little bit about your ASU journey and your story.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, so was here 93 to 98. So part of Coach Snyder, one at a time motto. Transferred, not transferred, but made the transition from high school in Tempe to ASU. So it was a no-brainer for me. I had opportunities to take a lot of different recruiting trips, Penn State, Colorado, UCLA. I canceled a couple because you were only allowed 5 at the time, but ASU has always been near and dear. Just being a local kid right down the road. Mom still lives off of Rural and Southern, so if I ever need a lunch break, I go home.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, so it was definitely surreal. The whole experience, I think, is the best descriptor for it because the teammates, the brothers that you meet throughout that time, is you can't put a price on it.
For sure.
As you stated earlier, still maintain a lot of contacts with throughout the 5 years, through all those teammates, not just specifically the 96 team. That year, I was primarily a kickoff guy. I had some health issues the last, part of the end of the year that kind of limited some playing time. But again, the relationships that you encounter through those times, I think a lot of those relationships stem from Camp T. I was, fortunate to stay up there 50 plus days. I think Coach Snyder had a magic button to whenever we had practice, it was always sunshiny, no rain. And then when it was meeting time or sleep time, it was raining. So it was always an insider joke in that regard with those teammates.
Yeah.
But I think a big thing, too, is that just a lot of student athletes that spend their time at ASU, they love Arizona so much. If it's not the weather, it's just the relationships that they have or the connections that they maintain. So I've been fortunate being a local kid coming from, pretty much the Tempe area and then staying local. And then a lot of my teammates either been a part of Sun Devil Athletics through either professional developments, that alumni connection, or they're in coaching realm. They're in high school coaching or they're doing something privately. So being local is always a natural fit. And then my previous occupation was always a good connector for that.
So let's just get this out of the way right now. Being a good punter, are you also a good golfer?
No. I mentally, I'm a good golfer, but I'm not there yet. And I always get razzed by a lot of friends saying, "Why are you so bad at golf?" And I'm like, I'm trying to get better, but aren't kickers supposed to be good at golf? I'm like, I thought so too. So I have good days and bad days, but I'll definitely spend a lot of time trying to own that craft.
Definitely. Love it.
So, you talked a lot about being a local kid and how much it meant to you to have this opportunity. You canceled some of those visits and, just the relationships that you've made throughout the years and how much it means to you to have them. When you were younger, did you have any of those relationship models that were on display with some of the coaches at McClintock? Or, what was it like for you getting to grow up so close to Arizona State University and be a kid during that 86 Rose Bowl? What was that like for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say specifically, my coaches at McClintock, mentors after college, professionally definitely helped. So Doc Zinke's the first one that rings a bell. He was a old-time basketball coach at McClintock, and he taught me how to push myself to the nth degree. I was a younger player on varsity, and sometimes it wasn't always easy. So he coached me hard.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it might have been emotional on my end just because of how hard I was coached, but I definitely appreciated that in the long run. When I was done with ASU, and then a lot of coaches at ASU, I mean, Donnie Henderson, who's there now, I reflected back to, just recently when he got rehired on to do the corners or the safeties in that regard. Just wanted to tell him thank you for how he treated a lot of the incoming freshmen, because he was kind of the main contact over our study hall and grades and maintenance, and he coached you hard too. But at the end of the day, we always knew that he loved us and he wanted the best out of us. And I made sure I said, hey, thank you. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would be back here, serving ASU if I didn't have that type of leadership. Going back to some other, at least one other mentor is Dan Serrano. He was a principal.
I know him very well.
You know Dan, yeah.
He's a great person.
He's amazing. Actually, his son Tanner, I call him Lalo. He's one of our video guys at ASU right now. But he was very influential, because as I was done with ASU, trying to kick a football in the league, bouncing around, I was his security guard. And I was, when I was pretty much done, I was like, say, how did you get to where you were at? Because he was a athletic director, was transitioning to a principal, and he's kind of paved his path for me. I got into special education, taught at Marcos de Niza, and he said, then you got to go get another master's in at leadership, and do the principalship courses and all of that. And when there's an opportunity to get a job or earn a job, be flexible, move, et cetera, and just kind of follow that path. So I've always been intentional in that regard, but it's with my friendship with him and just really admiring what he did, and always knowing that I want to be a part of athletics definitely helped, at least that professional path. So I would say Doc Zinke and Dan Serrano were too influential.
For sure. I used to go up to Camp T all the time, and it's just such a cool environment down there. You touched on it a little bit, but do you have a favorite story or memory from your time there? Or?
Yeah, there's definitely several. I'll go over a couple. Like, one of them is just being freshmen, like the stories that you can come up with, or that you just create, and memories that you create with your teammates. Not necessarily the practice time, but in the cabins. We had a trailer as freshmen, and it was like a Comedy Central fest every night. Everybody's tired, minus the kickers. Because again, we had the luxury of not practicing, 2 or 3 times a day, where we're trying to knock each other's heads off. But just the stories, and you might be bagging on one another or whatnot, but again, that connection was everlasting throughout the 5 years I was there. Another story is going back to the leadership component and the commitment component, about the one at a time, kind of enduring and embracing your brothers. Coach Snyder was always an advocate of saying, hey, you got to take the bullet, meaning that if you mess up, you got to take accountability for that. Old days in Camp T, there used to be like a kitchen bell, trying to go, hey, come and get it. It was on a flagpole right next to the practice field. And he's like, you don't have to be here. If you don't want to be here, we get it. It takes a certain type of athlete of what we're trying to do and the goal we're trying to get at. So if you would like to leave, just during practice time, have your bags packed, start ringing that bell, and then a GA will come get you and take you down the hill, and you'll be done. Happened one time in 5 years.
Wow.
And it was a memorable moment. I mean, it took golf for that individual to do so, but you see all the teammates when it actually happened saying, wait, is that the bell? Is that really happening right now? So there were some choice words by some of the guys, and Coach blew the whistle, say, hey, get back, on the field and practice. So it was, there's so many. There's so many. Sure. One other one I'll share upon is we had a not rookie initiation, if you will, but we had rookie talent show.
Yeah.
So and that was amazing. I believe the gentleman upstairs, Mr. Juan Roque, I mean, he was a target numerous times.
He mentioned that. I think our very first show we did on launch day was the rookie initiation day, and how fun those can be.
Yeah, and everything was open. Coaches, players, seniors, etc., and you had to work with a whole bunch of different position groups, all the newcomers did, and it was cool. It was a
remember
good
yours?
bonding time. Pardon me?
Do you remember what your talent was?
Yeah, I'm not. It's not. I don't know if it's good for air right now, but yeah, it was definitely a good time.
I love it.
Well, you got to play through some of the highs and some of the lows. I know they did at sometimes struggle to fill the stadium entirely prior to that '96 season. But then you also got to play there during some of the best years that ASU football has had in decades. So what is that like for you when you reflect on it now at this point in your life, to see those vast differences and like what you got to be a part of?
Love the question, and I'm big into meditation, big into living in the present moment, living in the here and now. And I think a lot of student athletes, a lot of professionals, anybody can kind of relate to is that, especially as a student athlete, I had a lot of great moments, but I never lived in the present moment all the time. I think some individuals do, and they get it. I think Pat, Tillman being one of them, like he beat to his own drum. He was kind of that guy who just had a different lens on things. So as I reflect back, going 25 years, 24 years since from a student athlete to a professional, I try to live in the present moment every single opportunity that I can. So I wish I was more present back then, even though we had so many good memories. But I always try to tell the student athletes that I interact with daily, if it's the track program or the football program or whatnot, whoever I have an opportunity to speak to, is saying, hey, you're an elite Division I athlete at Arizona State University. I was one too. One thing that if I had to do it all over again, I would be more present. If that's in the classroom, asking, and if it's in the classroom, asking your professors more questions, connecting with people that just surrounded ASU, getting to know your administrators better, just being present and saying, man, this is the coolest thing. I do it today. I've done it every single day on this job because I want to be intentional when I did it, is park on the top floor of the South Stadium structure, which was structure 5 back when I used to park back in 96, 97. I had to walk across the same street, but I pause before I go to work every day and I take a deep breath. I look at, the beautiful Sun Devil Stadium. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm gonna get after it today. And I kind of go into your question, Brittany, is like a lot of great moments, a lot of great reflection. You wish you can just tell everybody, just say, hey, this is it. This is so cool. You're never gonna get this moment again. And it's hard, for a young student athlete to truly, comprehend that, if you will.
For sure.
They will eventually.
Yeah.
But again, I'll say it to the nth degree, every opportunity that I can, just try to be present, live in this moment, and just enjoy it.
Do you think it's even harder now? I mean, so much has obviously changed, especially in the college realm, in the past 20 years with, NIL deals and everything kind of moving faster. Do you think it's harder now for these student athletes to live in the present, or is it just kind of that mentality of being a college athlete that's hard to do?
I think it's coupled. I think exactly what you just stated. I mean, this little device that we have, when 9/11 happened, there's 24/7 news. We had, these students, athletes do not know what this device is, and having pretty much a supercomputer at their hands. They're, based off of, again, we are too, off of likes and off the glamorous points in your life. And
sure.
So a lot of student athletes don't have to deal with a lot of adversity. And when you get to a Power 5, D1, university where you're competing against the best of the best, you're going to have some type of adversity. So trying to focus, you're always looking for your next thing. When's my next class? When's my next lift? When's my next study hall? What's the next thing I have to do? Oh, finally I get to sleep, or I can hang out, or whatever it may be. It is so challenging, and especially with the whole name, image, and likeness piece, because that's a whole new thing that we would always say, oh, I've been cool, but well, now it's here. And that's a ever-changing wild west world, which, it really hasn't truly been defined yet. It's evolving every single day. So yes, definite a lot of things that our student athletes today have to deal with that weren't there, especially back when I was playing.
Now, you've mentioned your two mentors that really have helped you a lot, but you also have talked a lot about Bruce Snyder, his mentality of one at a time, what you took away from Camp T. Is there any one impactful piece of coaching advice you were ever given that you've been able to take and carry with you throughout the rest of your life in everything that you do?
Well, I think he had a lot of different sayings, a lot of different quotes, mantras, etc. Um, I think it takes, in essence, it takes a village, if you will, as far as the team and everybody buying in. We had some amazing leaders throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we would always, I care about my teammates. I will hustle. I'll display courage. I'll know what to do.
Your 4 pillars.
Yeah, those are 4 pillars, and that resonates to everything that you do. You care about your coworkers. You're gonna know what your task is. etc. Even in our own professions today, you have to display courage. If it's coming on the radio and speaking about your life, or if it's getting in, speaking in front of other administrators about a certain initiative, you have to display courage, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. A lot of the times, I always go back to the whole one at a time. Just one day at a time. Every day is a new day. You gotta open it up and figure out what you want to do with it, and then you got another day the next day. But just again, going back to being present. Take the bullet. I've had my fair share of mess ups in life. Do this thing we call life, and I took the bullet many times. Know your role.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have this saying. It wasn't even really a saying. It's kind of like a joke, if you will, but there was a lot of seriousness to it. It's like, just know what to do. Like, equipment managers, equipment.
Yep.
Coaches coach.
Star in your role.
Players play. Administrators administrate. And they all work together in some shape or form, but understand what your job is and try to get everybody better within that role. I think that's definitely resonated. But honestly, I was listening to Joe Healy's Sparky's Tailgate, and Vince Amy, a good close buddy of mine. He made a connection to like just brotherhood that we have, because if there's any time that if I was down or out and I needed somebody, I could reach out to my teammates, and likewise they could always reach out to me. I mean, always felt that connection, that just the security, just knowing who you're going to get, that loyalty, being able to speak open and honestly. I mean, I still hear today. I mean, I'm excited about this upcoming weekend because there's some guys I haven't seen in a couple decades, right? And there's some guys I saw last week.
Yeah.
Kind of depending on who they are. So or texted a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I would say just the overall intentional approach of doing something every year, but they all carried the same theme, is to care about your teammates and to be accountable.
So speaking of, knowing what you do, starring in your role, can you touch on what you do right now as the associate AD and why you came back to ASU?
Yeah. Great question. So I currently I'm an associate athletic director. So I'm a primary sport admin for track and field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a secondary sport admin for football. I do the drug policy. I do student conduct. I do high school alumni connections, and I'm one of the main contacts for NIL. When I took the job, and I think over the past several years, I've probably longer than that, ever since I got in administration, I always wanted to get back to the university that served me as a student athlete, because I love the maroon and gold. And even though my path is not of norm, going from the high school to the collegiate ranks, especially at ASU, I felt that there's a lot of similarities in that. I mean, I loved my past employer, Chandler Unified, and opened up Williamsfield and taught special education at Marcos Niza. But in those relationships that I made there, but again, I think it was always kind of like a calling of me to say, hey, I'm going to do what I can professionally at this level. And if the opportunity ever presented itself, which it did, I'm going to go back to ASU. So it's a little nerve wracking, because again, it's a completely foreign world. I felt that I had a good niche in Chandler Unified. I, was, kind of up in the ranks in that regard, and was in conversations for maybe some AI roles in the future. But again, my heart was always with ASU and trying to serve the university that served me. And to be honest with you, I mean, it was probably one of the best professional decisions I've made, because I'm enjoying it completely. There's so much to learn, and it's home. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. I mean, I can't really describe it in words how, taking that deep breath on top of the structure. I mean, like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. People say I'm living the dream. I'm like, no, I'm really living my professional dream.
I love that.
So then how surreal was it for you to walk back into work on your first day on the opposite end, instead of being a student athlete, but being, an actual employee of the university.
Very surreal. I mean, there's some similarities because the elevator up on it's the same elevator, same smell. So that was, it's again kind of an inside joke, but it's the same wood paneling and everything. A lot of familiar faces. I mean, I was a teammate with Gene Boyd for a year, and then he came back obviously through the GA realm and et cetera. Obviously worked his way up to being a deputy AD. But then Mike Chismar over facilities, Doug Tamro, and Mark Brand, and Mark Zimmer, Rich Winter. I mean, there's so much familiarity there to where it was like, man, this is home. This is like, how did 25 years go by so fast? And then I'm trying to speak to as many athletes as I can. It's just like saying, enjoy this moment, because again, I get a redo, but professionally, and I'm just trying to make sure I am present and I can communicate that, because I do have that connection. There's very few. We just hired through a Sun Devil Club, Bo Moose. So that's another awesome connection. I mean, there's myself, there's Gene Boyd, there's Kevin Minifield, and then the Bo Moose, who had direct, playing ties with ASU football, which is, I think, is powerful. I mean, there's a lot of other administrators, people that work that have either played or went to school at ASU, and again, it's the whole Sun Devil for Life mantra.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to ASU to be a Sun Devil for life, but again, it's always cool to kind of have those connections and those memories.
What's it like with the NIL stuff, being that main contact? Can you just describe kind of what that's like? Because it's new for everybody, not just you.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, it's the wild, wild west. I mean, it is. I completely get it. I understand. I mean, student athletes need to have that financial freedom if they desire. Do I think sometimes can it be a distraction? Absolutely. Is there a lot of things that student athletes need to be mindful of? Absolutely. I keep on trying to let student athletes know, like, you're a business now. Okay, you understand that $200 a month gift certificate at the 4 different places that you have, that's taxable income. Make sure you're going through these courses that we have, making sure you're getting some financial literacy. Who is reading that contract for you? Are you making sure that you're signing off on something that you as the company are able to, fulfill? So that's honestly been the biggest pulse check for me, because again, we're, as an institute, not supposed to navigate, not supposed to facilitate any deals or anything, but our job is to educate and put education in front of them. And that's ever growing as we speak to it. But it is the wild, wild west. I mean, we have our own policy. You have to stay away from certain things. You have to disclose everything that you're doing. There's sometimes I'm on Twitter and I'm like picking up the phone a little bit later saying, hey, make sure you disclose, because I don't see anything in it. But it's exciting to see where it's going. I do see maybe across the board some more uniformity, because it came out so fast. I mean, across either federally or Pac-12 or NCAA. But again, it's ever changing. It looked different July 1 than it does now, which is going to look different in January 1. Yeah. So again, it's continuously evolving. And then the Alston deal too is very dotted line connected to it with academic achievement, which is another thing that's in play as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you also have a role working doing alumni relations with high schools.
Yeah, both for the sports program, specifically football and track and field, and then high school connections.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your main goal is to work on developing those high school connections and working to kind of establish more of a relationship with the school's programs and the surrounding local high school programs.
Correct. And that's the conundrum in and of itself, because of NCAA bylaw. There's quiet periods, dead periods, evaluation periods, etc. So it's trying to work with our compliance department and seeing what we can do. If it's offer a space for them to have a meeting and then give them a tour, but again, in accordance to those guidelines. I felt as a site AD, as a district AD, I mean, I think it's so valuable to have a connection with your surrounding community. I mean, going back to the True Devils and staying true and all those types of things. I mean, I stay true. I do think there's value, especially with in this in the atmosphere today. I mean, kids, I won't say kids, but student athletes are so connected to family, and it's hard to uproot and to go, X amount of miles away from where you live, and especially when you have everything right here in your home state, and there's phenomenal administrators, phenomenal athletes, etc. That again are all kind of interconnected. So whatever is permissible, that's what I'm looking to do. Offer an opportunity for ASU to be more present in the community, more present where they can be. So yeah, I mean that's again, I have a natural feeling with that as well, because the last 21 years I spent in the high school space, so I still have, I believe, wonderful connections, and know the pulse a little bit better than most. At least who's been in this space, because that's all I've known.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can connect better.
Definitely. Well,
can I piggyback off that before you ask whatever you were going to ask? So, I also had just wrote a story it's actually an ongoing series. It's looking at why Arizona State is kind of sort of looked at as a sleeping giant, and what the fans can do in terms of doing their part to help that and help change that type of mindset. And part of that comes down to getting people out into the stands, getting people at the games. And, when I was talking to people about this story, one of the things that they said that they would like to see ASU do more of is work more with some of the younger athletes in the community. So I'm assuming that that is a goal that Arizona State does have in mind with these more recent hirings, especially with Bo Moose. You were brought on earlier in the spring. I don't know if you can speak to that at all, if that's something that's a goal for you guys. But
yeah, and I can only speak to my time there. So since February, I mean, I think it's always a goal to see where you can fit, as far as how you can reach the community. Because again, there is a lot of bylaws, and again, when recruitment comes in, and when they think, or not when they think, when there's permissible or non-permissible times, I mean, it's vast. I mean, it is vast. There's a lot of things that I really wanted to do, but we just can't. Getting fans in the stands is important. We do have a lot of K-12, connections that you'll see at games and opportunities as such. But whenever you're dealing with a student athlete or potential student athlete, there's certain channels that you must, abide by, if you will. Being at Arizona State, it's a definite. We're in a huge market. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a professional sports team. We are ever growing. Our new multi-purpose arena, which I'm pretty certain you've heard about.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's looking awesome.
It is going
Super
up.
Excited for it.
Yeah, that's a game changer with hockey, with gymnastics, with wrestling. Trying to get that open ice from pretty much 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day, and reaching out to the community, the whole new Novus corridor, and the things that come in the future that's going to present more opportunities for ASU, Sun Devil Stadium, the facilities be more utilized as far as a community piece.
So more going back to what their original view for ASU 365 was before COVID kind of hit and put a damper on everything.
Agreed. 100%. And there's things that we can do. I mean, there's things that you can navigate, and it's being intentional. I think it's part of one of our strategic plan is as far as our culture and social impact pillar is that how can we best serve our community? If it's Tempe, if it's Chandler, if it's outside, how can we be a conduit? If it's being present at an event, if it's working some things through our events coordinator, through a community event like either a game or throughout the vast majority of our sports. How can we stay connected? Is it education regarding NIL or regarding what it becomes to become a student athlete? And one thing I really like doing when I was at the site, I always reached out to Gene and said, hey, how can we get ASU to Perry or to Williamsfield and speak about the do's and don'ts, or what to look for, or what academic standards or what, and those things are still available. We have a great administrator named Alonzo Jones. He's an associate D as well. He helps me out with track and does so many things with our Champ Life program. He's a phenomenal speaker. He's been out, and again, all permissible. Yeah. He's been out to junior highs already, and is speaking about Champ Life and about student athletes and what it takes to become an elite student athlete academically and athletically. So there's so many things to do. It's just a matter of having space, getting out of this COVID space and this COVID world, and trying to get more normalcy back.
Definitely. Well, before we let you go, let's get to right now. Let's talk ASU football. What is the game plan like when you're preparing for a team that has just fired their coach, like Washington State, and you're going up against an interim coach? Is it basically the same? Is the game plan still set for what was expected before the firing, or is it just kind of who knows what's going to happen? Like, what's the preparation going to look like in this coming week?
Well, going back to what we were saying, stay in your lane. Coaches coach, administrators administrate, players play, etc. I'm not going to, speak for our amazing coaching staff, but I think their overall sense in every single facet is do your job, do what you need to do, stay focused. Kind of going back to the one at a time piece. I mean, the certain losses that happen out there and what's on the table right now. I mean, we're slated to still do a lot of damage. I think the team that's out there, or I know the team that's out there, hasn't really scratched the entire surface of what they're capable of. It's there. I think you got to stay focused on the goal at hand, which is this weekend, and taking care of that business, practicing with intent every day. Our coaches are out there, challenging our student athletes, focused on discipline, focused on being accountable, all those things that it takes to win. The X's and O's, they're the masters in that craft. But again, you got to focus on what we can do. And I think if the coaching staff, the team does what they need to do, I mean, it's going to be a positive end result. But it goes back to doing things one at a time and understanding that this is our goal. Here's our practice that we have to do. Then the next practice in game time, do your job.
For sure.
Well, going back to that one at a time, that was what Snyder said to you guys, and Herm has really kind of taken that mentality, not knowing that it was Snyder's that he had for that team, and he kind of had the team give their own twist to it and make it personal. They opened up about that when they played UCLA and how some of those guys really did have a chip on their shoulder going into that game because they grew up wanting to play there, never got offered, got overlooked, their offer got pulled, whatever it may have been. But they were able to take that one at a time mentality and make it their own for whatever game. Do you think that that's beneficial? And what do you think that has to do with helping this team continue to move forward and succeed like your team did when they had that mantra?
Coach Edwards is a master motivator. I mean, the coaches are definite professionals in their field. I think the coaches know how to best motivate their student athletes. 100%. And what worked for a team 25 years ago, I think the vernacular is the same, but you got to change it for today's student athlete. And I think that's real. I mean, that whole UCLA example that you gave, I mean, there's a huge Cali tie to that. So there is, a little more family, there's friends there, there's bragging rights there. And those student athletes are embracing what it is to be a Sun Devil. And in terms of being, going through adversity, we're going a little bit through adversity right now. Every great team goes through that. Coaches have the task of refocusing our student athletes, saying, hey, that's done. We got this game on the table, and we get take care of this game when we go to the next. So I think I definitely, see that resignation, that connection, but you got to connect it to today's student athlete and what they see every day. I mean, they're the best who know their student athletes, but ultimately the students need to get student athletes are the ones who do the work on the field.
Yeah.
Right. They got to come and play. Coaches are going to prepare them. They're going to get them ready, but they got to go out there and play. And they got to want it. Again, I think all around there's been a great focus on that regard. Getting it done one at a time and putting your best effort on that field.
Definitely. Do you see any similarities in this team from years past at all?
It's hard. It's hard to really say that. It's especially from my seat. I mean, it's not in the weeds every single day as a lot of our football staff and coaches do. Do I see similarities as far as, elite athletes' ability to do wonderful, great things? Absolutely. We had, two little, stumps or bumps in the road, et cetera. But again, that's not going to, in my opinion, that's not going to be the descriptor of the season. So greatness is there. Again, it's just kind of going back to that one at a time piece. Talent is there, coaching is there. I mean, all the pieces are there. Again, it's just moving forward positively, being accountable, and making no excuses, getting it done. There's no excuses. It's just getting the job done and moving forward the way we know how we can do.
For sure.
Now, before we let you go, we're on this last topic. We have a video from Herm's press conference today, and it's talking about the game against Utah, how they've been working on moving forward and looking forward to Washington State, and a little bit of what to expect. So we're going to play that, and then we'll talk to you a little bit about what your expectations are and what you're looking forward to seeing from the Sun Devils in this game.
Good.
Basically, when you look at the South and the North, I said it earlier in the season, before the season started, I said no one's gone undefeated in conference play, and that holds true again this year. No one's gone undefeated. Everybody's got lost. It's kind of interesting, and I think going forward, when you look at both sides of it, whether you're in the South or the North, there's 3 or 4 teams that still, when you look at the conference schedule, have a shot. And that's what makes it so interesting in the Pac-12 play, is that everyone has an outside shot if you won some games, and we happen to be one of those teams. So I think that's the exciting part of it. Now there's a lot of work to be done. We play a good Washington State football team. They went through a little bit of a situation last week with their coach. The staff that was a part of that staff had been let go. Some assistant coaches that were on that staff took over and did a fabulous job, along with their players, really playing good football. And they're a 4-4 football team, and a lot of experience on this team, a lot of experience on both sides of the ball. They got a big, powerful offensive line, a strong arm quarterback. They have 2 really good runners. They have great contact balance. Wide receivers are nifty, and they have some length outside. Defensively, they're very active in what they do. They have an outstanding secondary that plays a lot of man-to-man coverage. Linebackers that run from sideline to sideline. So they're much improved. They're very much improved defense. Don't give up a lot of points. Averaging about 25 points a game, I believe it is. Get after the quarterback. So they do a lot of good things. And this is a game that obviously both teams need. You got to keep winning in the Pac-12, because when you're running out of time, you start running out of games. And we know we have 5 games left, and this is an important game for us as well as for them.
They know that this is an important game, but obviously there's a little bit more excitement that goes into this game because it is homecoming. So what are you the most excited for? It's a day game, blackout, homecoming. They're going to be hopefully having some players back like Johnny Wilson. What's the biggest thing for you?
Getting it done on the field. I mean, I'll go back to a story which I know both of you have heard before. It was before the Nebraska game.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the hotel room. This is my lens, right? We were in the hotel room. We're in a team meeting, and our senior leaders kicked all the coaches out. I think it's Derek Smith that resonated a lot, but a lot of our leaders basically came up or stood up and basically said, "Hey, we're going to win this game. If you're not committed to winning this game, leave." And a lot of individual players stood up. There's a lot of motion. There was chairs thrown and whiteboards hit and all of that. But everything that left that room was just love and connection and understanding that we weren't going to lose that game, minus the whole world pretty much thinking that we're going to lose or knowing that we're going to lose, minus the stands where it's pretty much red, thinking that we're going to lose. But I'll tell you what, everybody who was a part of that team knew that we were going to win, who was in that room knew that we were going to win. And that's going to help me answer this question. I mean, the athletes need to, bond together, have each other's back, understand where they're at, and understand that where they still can go. And it all starts, as Coach said, it all starts with this week. Take care of that business, and then move on to the next, because opportunity's there, the moment's there. Are you going to seize it or not?
Mm-hmm.
You got to do the work on the field, and I know the coaching staff will get them prepared. I know Coach Edwards is going to get them prepared physically and mentally. They're going to be motivated for that game, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the alumni to come back, and even though it's been 25 years, to connect and to smell the smells that they used to smell whenever I give a lot of tours, right?
Yeah.
Just because I love it so much, and I love reconnecting with my teammates. And whenever we go to certain areas, oh man, there's that smell.
Well, you gave the 1970 Peach Bowl team a tour, did you not? Or 71?
Yeah. No, and they were like a kid in a candy store. It was so cool. They were taking pictures. I had, come on guys, we got to keep going. But anyways, just the same difference. I mean, it's something we're always going to be connected to. It's always going to be a big part of our lives. And I'm hopeful and I'm confident that the end result, both from an alumni standpoint and from a Sun Devil football standpoint, is going to be victorious, and it's just going to be a great homecoming event, through and throughout.
For sure. Well, anything else from you?
Did you know that they also were going to carry the goalpost down the street if you guys won?
Hey, that would be
Or was
amazing.
that just like an added bonus?
Hey, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
So, well, that's all we have for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcus. Everyone who is tuning in, make sure you join us tomorrow. We will have Rodney Cox and DJ Foster, who both played at Arizona State, joining us. It's going to be an exciting episode, so make sure you tune in 3:30. We'll see you then.
Later.